Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. On behalf of the entire Alperton Community School community, we are delighted and grateful to the T4 team to have this platform and opportunity to share with you how we achieve excellence through creating and promoting an inclusive school culture. Within the next hour or so, we'll be exploring how schools can create inclusive communities by looking through the lenses of the school leadership, the teaching body, and also through the eyes of our learners. My name is Andrea Zafiraku, and I'm a teacher and a member of the senior leadership team here at Alperton Community School. Joining me to explore this topic is the principal of Alperton Community School, Gerard McKenna. Gerard has been the head teacher of Alperton Community School since 2013. Through his leadership, the school results have continued to improve, with progress scores achieving well above average in all categories. He's also led the school through an extraordinary journey from being graded satisfactory from an external inspectorate to that of having outstanding leadership in only a few years. Our next panellist is Alan Hart. Alan is a teacher and a member of the leadership team at Alperton Community School. Amongst many other responsibilities that Alan holds, he currently leads on the mammoth and complex task of safeguarding across the school. Also joining us is Nilota Banerjee. Nilota is an English teacher and a member of the leadership team at Alperton Community School. She is responsible for the design and implementation of inclusion and equalities across the whole school. And in 2019, Nilota managed to lead the school from holding the Centre of Excellence status for inclusion for a number of years to gaining the prestigious Flagship status by IQM, a status that only a handful of schools currently have in the UK. We'll also be joined by Mohammed. Mohammed is a maths and economics teacher at Alperton. He is also responsible for the progress and provision of our high ability students, who are also known as the more able cohort across the whole school. In addition, Shrishti Panchal will be joining us, and she is an English teacher and a member of the middle leadership team at Alperton. She is responsible for the progress and provision of students who have had English as a second language across the whole school. And in our school, we call this as EAL. And last but not least, we are joined by our wonderful student, Corey. Now, Corey has been a student at Alperton for at least 6 years. He's currently studying A-level maths, economics and geography. And I recall when I first met Corey more than a few years ago now, when he was 11 years old, he wanted to be the Prime Minister of the UK, and we look forward to him achieving this ambition. But before we start our conversation, it might be a good idea to give you some context of our school community. Alperton is based in the inner city London borough of Brent. Brent as a borough is extremely diverse and multicultural, where approximately 185 languages are spoken by the residents. It's an area of high deprivation, also has recently seen the highest levels of COVID cases throughout the country. Alperton Community School is a state-funded, mixed, non-selective secondary K-12 community school. We have approximately 1,700 students on our roll. 99% of these students are from minority ethnic backgrounds, and with a tiny percentage of them being white British. Our percentage of free school meals, which is the school deprivation index, is quite high, and attainment on entry is very often below the national standard in reading, writing and numeracy across all year groups. But regardless, the entire school community has high expectations for our students, and thus our students achieve and succeed. And just to give you a flavour of our school, I want to share with you a short film that was created for our students after we returned back from our COVID lockdown, which we hope will give you an idea of what our environment and community is like.
Tutor comes to collect us. We must sanitize our hands whenever we enter and leave a classroom and other areas of the school. Form time is half an hour. We do different things each morning, such as PSHE, literacy, sports, news and assembly. There are 5 lessons a day that are 1 hour each. Period 1 starts at 9 a.m.
This year, to help keep us safe and distanced from other groups of students, the teachers come to a form room and teach us there. Sometimes they will take us to a different room if we need to use other equipment. Some lessons require specialist rooms or equipment such as drama, art, music, food technology, textiles, product design, sport and health, and computing.
We have half an hour break at 11 a.m. Break time is a great way to meet and socialise with other students in our year group. I have made lots of friends already.
We can buy food from the canteen or pods. At the end of break, our period 3 teacher will come in to collect us. We have different teachers throughout the day, which makes it more interesting and challenging as they are specialists in their subject.
Lunch is at 1:30 p.m. Canteen serves a variety of different food.
To pay for your lunch, you use your fingerprint, which is great because it means you do not have to bring any money to school. Each year group has their own outdoor area to eat and there's lots of space in the Muga to play.
There is one more lesson after lunch.
The school day ends at 3:25 p.m. Each year group finishes at a different time, so there is no crowding by the school gate.
We look forward to welcoming you to Alperton Community School in September 2021.
We hope you enjoyed that short video, which should have hopefully given you a flavour of what our school community is like. Just to give you some housekeeping, there is a chat box function, and if you'd like to please send us in questions, we'll be delighted to answer them throughout this presentation. But what we'll do, we'll start on our panel. So my first question will be to the head teacher, Mr. McKenna. So Gerard, what is inclusion? And why is it particularly important to promote inclusive practices in any school community?
So, afternoon. What is inclusion? Great question. To us, inclusion is everything. It really underlies everything that we do. So we are Alperton Community School, and we are very proud of that name because community school stresses the importance of our community. So, going back to the question Mr. Efraku asked, so inclusion is absolutely everything to us. It means everything to us as a school.
Thank you very much, Mr. McKenna. And what I'm taking from that is that very powerful first statement there, inclusion is everything. So what I'd like to do now is pass on to my colleague Nilota. Nilota, can you give us an idea about the inclusion provision that is on offer at the Alperton School, and what's the scale?
Okay, so we have quite a broad provision on offer at Alperton. We have different teams, big and small, looking after different groups of students in our school. We have the EAL team looking after students who are new to English. We have the special educational needs team looking after children who have cognition and learning needs, who have speech, language and communication needs. We also have a strong pastoral team looking after the needs of our pastoral needs of our students. We also have a mental health team, and they work with children who have mental health issues. We also have a student support officer who works with our disadvantaged students from low-income families. We have a most able lead working with our most able children. We have a Caribbean champion working with our Caribbean students, and we also have a very, very good safeguarding team helping to keep our children safe in school. With regard to the scale, our school has about 1,700 students, and 90% of the students are bilingual. So literacy is a key issue for us. We have about 230 students on our free school meals register, and they come from low-income families, and they get support in school with meals. We also have about 200 students on our special needs register, and we have our ASCEND team looking after those students. We also have a large number of students who are financially deprived, and we call them pupil premium students because they access a fund which is called Pupil Premium Fund. And we buy equipment, resources, and we buy textbooks and things like that for them. So what I would like to do now is to show you a short video and we also have a large team of teaching assistants, and they provide in-class support to students. We provide lunchtime clubs, after-school clubs. So we have a broad range of interventions to meet the needs of these students. So what I would like to do now is to show you a short video where you can have an idea about the inclusion provision of our school, and also you will get an introduction to key leads.
Hello everyone, Mr. Tan here. I'm a teacher at Alperton Community School. I've actually been a teacher for the last 8 years. 6 have been at Alperton Community School in Wembley. I have a couple of positions at the school which I wanted to let you know about. As well as being a PE teacher and head of student voice, I have a very special role, which is the inclusion officer for our school. This is for our Black Caribbean students. Now, what does that role mean? It means a couple of things. Day by day, week by week, I track our students in a big spreadsheet, and I make sure I check in on their attendance, I look at their grades they're achieving at school, and I also have some great chats with our students, as many as I can see day by day, just to check in on them and see how they're doing at school. Previously, I've made sure that our Black Caribbean students are properly equipped for school. This could be anything from pencil cases and calculators, and I know during isolation, some students were struggling to get laptops to make sure they are accessing all of the home learning. Now, making sure they have laptops, make sure that they are ready for school and they can continue learning just like everyone else. Previously, I've done wellbeing questionnaires for our students to make sure they're settling in okay at school. I've done mini interviews with our students as well to check on them regularly throughout the year to make sure they're properly supported and listened to. And finally, I've done assemblies. Now, this is the right time of year for it during Black History Month. Previously, I did an assembly on our Black iconic members of our community to make sure they raise the profile of those individuals, make sure everyone knows what they're up to in our community. Finally, I wanted to give you a top tip just in our teaching. This is something I've thought of quite a lot recently, and I've spoken to a lot of our professionals around us. And we found that a top tip for when teaching our Black Caribbean students is having positive relationships. Now, this is sort of something you should think more about. You just make sure that they are listened to and that they have trust in the lesson and that they're properly supported. And I know that obviously excels into their learning and things like that. So positive relationships is the best tip I can give. Thank you very much for your time.
Hi, my name is Miss Helburn and I support the Pupil Premium students here at Alperton Community School. Pupil Premium is a grant designed to support learners from a disadvantaged background with their academic progress. Research has shown that children from such a background may not perform as well as their peers and tend to face extra challenges in reaching their potential at school. Learners who are eligible for this funding are those who claim free school meals or who has claimed free school meals in the last 6 years, and then also looked after children and those who are previously looked after as well. To support learners, I conduct what we call progress interviews. This enables me to identify their needs and communicate these to teaching and pastoral staff to ensure their learning experience and potential is maximised. I facilitate interventions such as homework club, study skills boosters and workshops to support them with their progress and raise confidence in their learning. I also ensure that the students are equipped for school by ensuring they have the resources that they need, such as stationery, uniform and revision guides. My top tip or strategy on how to make deprived students feel included in school is accessibility and discretion. Making their learning accessible, for example, using hard copies of their issuing hard copies of their homework if they do not have a computing device at home, and to not be quick to penalise them for circumstances that are beyond their control. Use discretion when discussing matters that pertain to finances and if issuing resources such as revision books and stationery if you are not going to issue to the whole class, as they may get embarrassed and it may trigger disengagement from the learning. But most of all, be approachable. The learner needs to have confidence that you can support them with their learning and that it is okay to ask for help when they're stuck. The student will disengage or tend to disengage from the lessons if he or she feels they don't have a good rapport with their teacher.
Hi there, my name is Rishal Shah. I am the HLTA for the EL department, which is the higher level teaching assistant. As a HLTA, I deliver all the EAL interventions such as extra English lessons, lunchtime and after school club. I also deliver EAL inductions for students who are new to English and they are taught the functional skills. This usually lasts for about 2 weeks, 50 hours. The extra English lessons involve teaching students reading, writing, speaking and listening. We also teach them the curriculum in a differentiated way so that they understand. My role also involves interpretation for key messages for parents so that they do not miss anything important. Thank you.
Manali, tell us 3 things that you have learned in the induction program.
Geography, island, continent and ocean. In maths, island, addition and subtraction. In spelling, and comma and capital letters and full stop.
Very good.
Okay, so what we can gather from that particular video is that it takes a lot of people to make sure that a school is excellent in inclusion. So I'd like to focus on one of my colleagues now who really has a leading part in one of those areas, and that's Shrishti. So Shrishti, how do we make the school an inclusive community for those students who are new to English?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. As Nilota and Gerard has mentioned that we are 90% EL school, the first strategy that the school uses is the deployment of teachers who have EL specialism. We also have a provision of bilingual teaching assistants. These are our teaching assistants who are having the same language as the students do, and they go in and support the students in class, and also they have some withdrawal interventions with these students. We also, for our teachers, our new teachers, we also have EL PDs where we provide strategies for learning for these teachers where they can plan inclusive lessons. We also make sure that we have an after-school intervention for students who are new to English or who have who are just at an early acquisition stage where they can come back to us and we can have our interventions in place for them.
Thank you very much, Shrishti. And again, what we're taking from that is how important professional development is for the school teachers. Okay, so what is absolutely vital is that we speak to a classroom teacher to find out how they can make sure that we have an inclusive practice. So I'd like to now ask Mohammed. Mohammed, as a teacher of a mixed set, how do you ensure that inclusion is kept at the forefront of your mind?
Right, thank you for that question, Andrea. I think that's probably on the minds of every class teacher of a mixed setting. Well, I think first and foremost, I think it's getting to know your students well. I think initially, you want to look at your data and see where do the students lie in terms of the various groups that are included in the school. So you might have students with special needs, you might have disadvantaged pupils, we might have students who have English as a second language, and you might have students with various abilities. So you might have students who are more stable, who I look after, and you might have students who are of a lower ability. And in any case, with each group, once you've identified where the students lie, then I would suggest perhaps looking at what the experts say. And we're lucky enough to have specialists within our school. I mean, you've heard Shrishti today and Nilota. And it's quite important to understand what are the needs of these various groups and how to best meet those needs, let's say through continuous professional development, whether it's the resources that can be provided or the student profiles that sometimes we have access to. But I think on a deeper level, I think is to understand each student individually, on an individual level, their background, their culture, their values. I mean, we're quite lucky at Alperton Community School that we have such a diverse student community. So once you understand, each student you'll be able to build meaningful relationships that really do inform your teaching practice. And in that sense, I think you can really tailor your teaching practice to the various needs of each of the groups and each individual, and that I think helps in improving attainment and progress within the school. And I've definitely witnessed that myself within my own classrooms, that once I've got to know my students really well, I've really been able to help them with their progress and achieve the very best grades.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. And what we can take from that particular presentation is how vital it is for us teachers to be proactive in trying to find the people around us who can help us in terms of the experts. But also what we can also take from that particular comment was with regards to relationships. So if we take the time to build relationships and get to know our young people, most of that work is done for us already. So now it's my absolute great pleasure to introduce one of our wonderful learners that we have at Alperton. And Corey, I'm going to ask you an honest question. I want you to be as honest as you possibly can. As a student, how have you benefited from learning by being in an inclusive community?
Hello, and yeah, I've benefited quite a lot from being in an inclusive community with Alperton Community School. I believe that with this inclusive community, I've been able to understand many cultures because within this school, there are people from many various areas ranging from Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and students from East Africa and West Africa. Me coming from a Caribbean background, I've been able to also spread my culture to this school to create a more diverse environment. And on top of that, the teachers also coming from various places has benefited and creating a more inclusive community and environment, because with the different changes and different teachers, we've been able to become accustomed to different styles and accept different ways of learning. And it's always made learning at Alperton Community School way more engaging. And on top of that, in terms of lessons wise, we've been able to perform sports or go through different activities in the PE curriculum like cricket, basketball, football, sports which are worldwide known around different parts of the world, which is embraced this inclusive community and allowed us to accept cultures and become greater human beings at Alperton Community School.
And Corey, if I could just ask you just to go a bit more detail, what about lessons? What do you think will help lessons be more inclusive if teachers did more of this?
I think if teachers were more inclusive, it would create a more comfortable and easier environment for students to ease into the curriculum. I think with teachers being more engaged, it allows students to feel more comfortable and feel safer, and it will increase the chances of students participating. Me, myself, at first when I came to the school was rather quiet or rather timid, but after seeing how welcoming and how accepting the teachers are and how much energy they bring to classrooms, it allowed me, inspired me to become less shy and more open and available to answer questions. And I've seen it with other students as well, especially new students who come into the school where English wasn't their first language, but they've seen how everyone attempts and everyone's trying to strive to become better and better. And with this inclusive environment, we become greater students and excel in our learning.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Corey, for that. And what we can take from that is how important it is in terms of our reactions and what we need to do in terms of making sure that as teachers we're providing an inclusive curriculum, we're providing inclusive opportunity for our young students to thrive in our lessons. So that sounds great, doesn't it? That sounds easy to do, but there is something that is a huge barrier to our community, and that's what happens outside our gates, and also some of the issues that we cannot control that take place at home. So what I'd like to do is invite Alan, who's in charge of safeguarding, to explain to us why is it important that we need to create a safe and inspiring environment where all students can achieve.
For many students, school is a safe place. We've already looked at the demographics of of the school. We're an inner city borough with the usual problems of an inner city borough. We, like many students, think of school as being their home, their second home. From the very start of their career at Alperton, we build trust with students and staff. Only with that trust can we ever believe that students can have an environment where they can achieve, their aspirations. Knowing our students are very resilient. If many teachers knew what our students had outside of school, they'd be very surprised. Yet they present at school like normal students. They're teaching and learning, they're studious, they're achieving in school. We achieve this by creating a safe and secure, but it's built on respect between students and staff. We also involve families. Families are also important because students leave us and go home, and the family influence is really important. So for us, it's working with the families as well. Only in that way can we really create a totally inclusive, safe and secure environment for our students.
Thank you very much, Alan. And again, from that, what was quite powerful, and what we haven't really spoken about yet is the importance of the parents and how we need to make sure that we work with the parents and ensure that there is a fantastic essence or spirit of respect that is promoted across the whole community. Now I'd like to move on to Nilota. And Nilota, first of all, congratulations. Flagship status. What does this mean and why is it so important? And possibly another question just to add to that is, how have we achieved this?
Okay, so the Inclusion Quality Mark is a national organisation that provides UK schools with external validation of their inclusive practice. They offer 3 award levels. The basic one is the School Inclusive Award. The second one is the Centre of Excellence Award, and the third one is the Flagship Award. At the moment, we have achieved the Flagship Award. Why is it important? I think there are 3 reasons why IQM was important for us. The first thing was that it gave us a nationally recognized framework for self-evaluation, and we were able to improve our practice. The second thing was that it gave us the national recognition that our practice was really good. And the third thing is that it helped us to promote equal opportunities for all our students, whatever their background, age, gender, or ethnicity. How did we achieve this? Well, it's not very easy to achieve it. A lot of work goes into it. So we had to complete the evaluative questionnaire and the framework, where we had to meet 8 different standards. And some examples of the standards are learner progress, personal development and learner attitudes, teaching and learning in the classroom, and standards. Some of these were the standards. So once we complete the framework, then we have an assessor coming into school, and they assess us for a day. And then when we pass that assessment, we get the IQM logo, we get a letter, and we then become a part of the IQM cluster of schools. This is where we meet other schools, like-minded schools, and we share our good practice. Yes, that's how we achieved it.
I mean, it is amazing, and the fact that only a few schools in the whole of the UK have got this particular status. So it just shows you how with a team that's willing, absolutely everything is possible. However, sometimes you may find that teams may not be willing, and there may be some challenges along the way. So what I'd like to do now is ask Gerard, being the head teacher, what challenges have we had to overcome?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I think there are lots of different layers to the challenges that this particular issue, when it arises, that we need to address. And the first thing about the challenges, I think sometimes it can be within the community itself. Sometimes the community, particularly the private communities, might not have the expectations of their own children. They can in some ways be restricting themselves. And that could go back to a lack of knowledge about how their children can progress what they could do, how they need to behave in certain social situations if they're applying for jobs, applying for university. And even a lack of connections, not knowing people who work in business or in these higher spheres, just what they need to do to move on. And this can really come through in terms of the confidence that you see in young people, and the difference that we see in young people from deprived communities when they're competing against people who come from maybe private schools. It quite often comes through in the confidence that people exhibit when they're being spoken to. So we try to do our very best to address that, and we do an awful lot of work with particularly our sixth formers when they're progressing to university interviews in how they can build that confidence, that self-belief as they go out into the world. Another way that we try to work on this particular change is by making the very best use of our careers system and using careers to inspire people, to provide them with the information, advice and guidance to move on to the very best courses and roles that they can do in society. And challenge to us also means challenging our systems. So we are constantly looking to see what the situations within our own school. So, for example, have our pupil premium children done as well as our non-pupil premium children? What's happened to our special needs children? Why perhaps did the Black Caribbean children not study French when they have the chance to study French? How well do pupil premium children do when they study business? Perhaps why there are so few Black Somali children in the top set. So all of those situations are fabricated. It's the way that we look at our data so that we're challenging our own internal systems in school. And that can often mean that we then have to look at staff expectations and making sure that staff have shared the same belief and expectations that we have as a leadership team to make sure that every child does the very best that it can do. Once we've established that, then our next challenge, I think, is providing the staff and the children with the knowledge, the skills, the tools that they need to go out and do their job. And one of the things that I think we've been very, very successful about recently is that what we do is that we build teams of people who will go out and work with the issues that we have to make sure that we are addressing these challenges. So, for example, we have created a team of people to work with our pupil premium students to make sure that we have an administrator who is completely aware and familiar of the needs of these children. And then we put in place all the things we need to support them. Going back a few years, we had a limited pastoral provision. We supplemented that. We had, again, a very limited provision for mental health. So we looked at providing a mental health lead. We had our mental health first aiders, our emotional literacy support assistants. We built up all of these teams and systems. Mr. Magani, who's with us today, appointing a more able lead. So for me, it's really making sure that we get the right people in place and build the teams that are going to overcome these challenges. And more than anything else, I think that as a school and our community, what we do is we embrace challenge. So we don't look at challenge as being an obstacle, we look at it as being an opportunity to grow and develop and evolve and overcome these challenges.
Thank you, Gerard. That was really quite useful and quite inspiring. And if I just can pull out one interesting topic that you were talking about, I'd like to explore a bit further, and that was careers. Why do you think educating and investing in careers information, careers guidance, careers knowledge is important for our young learners across the whole school?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really, really important to show young people what they could be, and it's also setting out the steps along the way. If I achieve this, that's the next step. I achieve good GCSEs, then I can progress these subjects at A level. If I get these grades at A level, I can get to this university. And it's breaking things down into manageable chunks that they can see along the way what they can get to, what they can achieve, and making it clear to them that there's absolutely nothing that they can't get to if they really apply themselves and follow the aspirations, the guidance, the advice that we provide for them along the way. So it's putting those role models out there, saying these are people, they've done it, bringing people into school, saying these are, you know, they've come from our school. One of the things we really do like to do is to bring back ex-students and say, here's an ex-student sitting in exactly the same chairs that you were sitting in a few years ago. They are now a lawyer, they're a doctor, they're a dentist. If they can do it, you can do it.
Thank you very much, Gerard. Now, just to summarise, we're nearly at the end of our presentation. What I'd like to do is go around to my panel and just ask them a very quick question each, and that would be about advice. So, Gerard, if it's okay with you, I'm going to start with you. What advice would you give to leaders who want to grow inclusion-rich schools?
I would say, first of all, have the courage of your convictions. If you believe in something and it's a value to you, it's an honest belief, you will make it happen. And if you believe in something, it will become part of your vision. It becomes a strategic priority, which means that it's integral to your planning and your development. And if that's the case, then you will look at how it's led and how it's funded. So to me, if you believe in it, you'll put the money there, you'll put the strategic leadership there, and then it will happen.
Wow, very powerful. So here we're talking about having a moral compass. Brilliant, thank you, sir. Moving over to Nilota. Nilota, what advice would you give to teams or individuals who are driving inclusion within the school?
I would say that get to know the profile of your student and parent community. You must know them really well if you need to plan provision to meet their needs. The second thing I would say is build positive relationships with all your stakeholders, because unless you have that relationship, you can't move forward with them. And another thing is that inclusion isn't a one-man band. It's really a vast area, and you do need different people driving different parts of it. So everybody in the organization has to work together cohesively to actually drive inclusion forward.
Thank you very much, Nilota. And Shrishti, over to you. Can you give us top tips to support EAL learners, so students who are new to English and their parents?
Okay, the first top tip to support any student whose English is not first language is through modeling. If there's good modeling of the language, students through repetition would definitely be able to learn it better. The second strategy that we would like to facilitate would be scaffolding. I think verbal scaffolding and written scaffolding helps a student who's learning a new language a lot. So for students who are new to English, you can actually have a success criteria ready for them so that they know that this is how they're going to progress and these are the steps that they need to take to achieve to that grade or a particular standard. The third thing would be for supporting parents. If the parents whose English is not first language, you can have mini workshops running in the school. So for example, for our parents who do not speak English, we have ICT workshops for them. We also organize coffee mornings for them so that they can feel welcome within the school community.
Thank you very much. Quite a lot of feedback there. And if I was just to take a couple of the key points which Shrishti just mentioned, she spoke about good practice in the classroom. She spoke about engaging the parents. She spoke about practical tips in the lessons, for example. She discussed modelling. Mo, now I'd like to come over to you, please. As a teacher, what do you think we need to prioritise in terms of having inclusive practice in our classrooms?
Right, so I've got 3 tips, and it sort of follows on from what I was saying earlier, and that's to know your students really well, both as groups, so the various groups that we discussed, and as individuals, and that involves scrutinizing your data, I would say, and then also building meaningful relationships with your students, and getting to know their various backgrounds, their cultures, their values. And then I think it's quite important then to work as part of a team, and listen to the experts within your school. I would say then that will better inform your practice and allow you to achieve better, attainment and progress. So that's my tips.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So what as teachers, what we need to do is start really making sure that we build those relationships with our learners. Viewpoint from a student, what advice would you give to schools about being inclusive? So what do you think works and what does not work?
Well, personally, I believe that the things which work are allowing group work to be engaged in the classroom. I think if students are with peers, they're able to connect and able to demonstrate communication and organization and work as a cohesive unit. And as well as that, it's a very important life skill which can be obtained by performing group work. By performing group work, you know that when you're going to the real world and you step out and you become an adult, you have to work with lots of teams and units and leadership organizations to survive. And as well as that, it embraces socializing and communication, which helps with lots of things outside of school. On top of that, I believe that students should be helping others in different ways. So for example, you might pair someone who has maths as their weakness with someone who has maths as their strength. With them two engaging, it doesn't create a one-way stream where the person with maths as their weakness becomes strong and the stronger person maybe becomes weaker, but in fact enhances both of them as it allows the weaker person to catch up and also feel more included as they're not falling behind, whilst the person who's stronger is also being able to enhance and tone their skills, which will create a greater grade for both of them. On top of that, inside the school, there's organizations that are run like the Most Able Fairs by SIR, which allows us students to be provided with resources and devices that allows us to obtain our target grades and work towards them and become greater students. As well as that, there's organizations like Coach Bright, where students are given opportunities to be with university students who are seen as mentors, and with this, the inclusiveness is being brought out because students feel more comfortable talking to someone near their age gap. And with this, it creates an opportunity for an academical relationship to be built and skills to be achieved, obtained, and enhanced. And furthermore, there's the summer school tuition program, which our school runs, which allows students to find a safe space outside of school to just achieve and learn, as well as rather than being a more comfortable environment, maybe like their home, where they might not feel as enthusiastic to learn. But in terms of things that may not work, I think most things work. I think it's just the misconception that teachers feel like they should treat everyone equally. And I think with treating everyone equally, there's advantages but also disadvantages, because there's students which may not work to a certain system that a teacher may offer. I think that if students really are able to look at an individual and understand what works for them and what works for a different individual, they'll be able to see that both of them are still able to work to a grade that they both want to achieve, despite there being different systems that may need to be used. So I believe that if teachers look at students with a different aspect to another student rather than comparing them to, then it will be able to embrace them to learn more and feel more encouraged to become a great version of themselves.
Incredible wise words there from our future Prime Minister Corey. So I think what we're going to take away from that is that not everyone is the same and that we must accommodate that for that. Thanks very much, Corey. And now finally I'd like to ask Alan, again, so important that we provide these safe learning environments.
Sorry about that. I'll switch my mic on. Bit of techie there. So I'll start again. So in order to make a school safe, you must have knowledge. You must know your community. You must know your staff and have confidence in your staff. As well as that, you must train your staff really well in able to spot the signs, to be able to listen to students. One of the things I tell students is that we are a listening school. It will only take a student once to talk to a teacher for action to happen. We all know our students. In my first piece, I said, we must know our students, and we do. As a school, that's what we do. We know our students really well, whether that is as a teacher, as a pastoral manager, as a lead of extracurricular, but knowing our students in and out of the classroom. The other important factor is families. We work a lot with families. Families where there may be issues, there may be problems. We don't just address the student, you have to address the problems within the families. So that's what we do, involving other agencies maybe, but it's knowing those families to help them to support the child so they can succeed at school.
Thank you very much, Alan. So just to summarise, I know that's lots of information that we provided, but I think what we can take away, first of all, and what's really stuck in my mind, is that we must make sure that as school leaders, as school communities, that we know our young people. And the reason why that's important is because that's how we engage them, and then we have this trust, this knowledge. So we're talking about building relationships with our young learners. Secondly, what we can take away is Thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you want to get in touch with us, our address is www.alperton.brent.sch.uk. We look forward to inviting you to communicate with us and to share how we think that inclusion should be something that we all focus on in our schools across the globe. And now a message from our sponsor, Vikas. Have a good evening.
My name is Vikas Pota. The reason why we're organizing this global showcase for World Education Week is we believe that schools have incredible expertise in making sure that learning outcomes improve. Given the state of the world, we want to see the expertise from this particular school being replicated in schools all over our planet so that the world becomes better for everyone. That is why I congratulate this school for what it does and hope that those listening can take away conclusions as to how they should actually approach their own improvement journeys. Thank you all for participating, and I look forward to seeing you in many of the other events this coming week. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for supporting this incredible work, without whom we couldn't have put together this global showcase. Thank you, and I wish you well for this event.
Fast-paced social, economic and technology-driven change is redefining our world. And having a broad range of skills such as creativity and problem solving has become far more important than being able to memorize information. To redefine how our children learn and to empower them for the future, parents, teachers and policymakers must stop overlooking a powerful part of the solution: learning through play. Play is the rocket fuel of child development, and there is a growing body of evidence to support that play is fundamental for children's positive growth and well-being over time. It is also an essential way to foster the skills required to thrive in today's world. The LEGO Foundation aims to build a future in which learning through play empowers children to become creative, engaged, lifelong learners. To do so, we work with a range of partners around the world to change the hearts and minds of all of those who influence children's lives through our programs, research and advocacy, so they can all embrace the transformative power of play. Examples of what we do include making sure that caregivers, practitioners and policymakers understand the importance of play, investigating, testing and scaling new ways to bring play-based learning into homes and schools, using play to help millions of the world's most vulnerable children cope with adverse childhood experiences and toxic stress, or conducting research with some of the world's leading research institutions. Please visit our website and follow us on social media to learn more.
Language connects us all. It's how friendships are formed, ideas are shared, and lessons are learned. Language is how we find understanding and express love. It's how we communicate our successes, both big and small. It lays the groundwork for learning and growth. And for an increasingly diverse student population, it can be the key to achievement in school and beyond. That's why Rosetta Stone Education is dedicated to language and literacy. We offer solutions designed to support teachers and their emergent bilingual students, recognizing and celebrating the knowledge, culture, and languages they bring to our classrooms. Our products are founded on the adaptive blended learning model for individual needs, continuous progress monitoring for better learning outcomes, and culturally responsive pedagogies for more inclusive classrooms. With solutions aligned with proficiency standards, we support language learning while exploring academic subject areas, paving the way to better outcomes. Because for all of us, language is everything.
Dear T4 community, we talk a lot about teachers these days, but we rarely listen to them. Therefore, I'm truly excited to join the T4 World Education Week to hear from teachers and school leaders all over the world how we can impact learning together. I'm particularly looking forward to the global showcase. 100 schools sharing their expertise and best practices, I believe, will be a huge motivation for other schools around the globe. I'm equally impressed by the T4 Solutions Challenge, its finalists and their solutions to real-world issues in education. This gives me hope that we can, together, turn around education globally. The Jacobs Foundation is a proud supporter of the T4 World Education Week because we share a vision to reimagine learning and education by bringing together the brightest people who understand how children learn. Let's do this together.